Hello, Tar Heel Nation. We're back with another episode of the UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I am your host, Dan DeWitt, and I'm excited to be back again, not only because we are the ACC champs now, or at least a share of the ACC championship, regular season championship to date, but also because I got a special Tar Heel guest here, big time guest for this show. He is, I want to make sure I get all of the credentials in there, but former UNC podcaster, probably someone that, even though he doesn't know it, kind of got me interested in the podcast and the possibility of becoming a podcaster. Co-author of the book, Duke Sucks. A big appearance on the 30 for 30, I Hate Christian Laettner. So pretty much a celebrity here on the podcast here. Andy, did I miss anything?
You got it, except for that celebrity part. If there are B-list celebrities, Dan, I'm like maybe like a G or an H-list celebrity, like way down the list. But I guess for those kind of credentials, yeah, that's it. That'll do it for sure. So no, thanks for having me on. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
I'm glad you could be here and we got it to work out. You contacted me right, I think it was the day I recorded the last preview for the Duke game. Yeah, it's good to have you on. Let's start first before we jump into games or anything. Just kind of with your background as far as a Tar Heel fan and how the book came about.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I was a podcaster. We hung up the mics the last year or so. But Reed Tucker, who was a friend of mine in Carolina, he and his brother were friends of mine. We probably like right after the 2009 championship, we kind of looked around and were like, there's not really a podcast out there for UNC basketball fans. And honestly, Dan, mainly we had one friend that was living like far away. He was in China or somewhere, and he was like, I'm dying over here. I can't talk UNC hoops. And so it was essentially Reed and I just kind of talking to this friend of ours and a couple of other friends that were far and wide from North Carolina. So started out like that, and we had a great time. But we used to end every episode of the podcast with this week's reason why Duke sucks. And so we were just talking about it. Reed is actually a writer by trade. He works for the New York Post and freelances on a lot of things. And so he was like, yeah, you know what? We should do a book about why Duke sucks. We've got all these reasons. We come up with all these reasons. We should just do a book. I'm like, we're just going to make a list of reasons to get, no. We'll write it out. We'll write little stories. Whatever you think. So we wrote out a couple things, and we did basically a little synopsis of what the book would be, some example chapters. Sent it off to his writing agent and said, hey, shop this around, see if anybody's interested. So she shopped it around a little bit and really didn't get a lot of interest. And it kind of sat out there for a couple of weeks on a couple of the smaller publishers, and then she was like, I'm going to send this out to larger publishers. And we were like, okay, whatever. Well, about that time, the original 30 for 30 about the Fab Five came on television. So I don't remember that. It was a huge thing in it about Jalen Rose calling all of the Duke players Uncle Toms. And this big, huge controversy about how much he hated them, how much he hated Laettner. It was this huge national story. Well, lo and behold, we had a book proposal sitting on the desk of these publishers that said the title of the book is Duke Sucks. And they kind of looked at that and were like, oh, you know what? This could be a national type of thing. Maybe other people are interested in this. And so from that, we got a book deal, which was crazy. And St. Martin's Press was the folks that picked it up. So they signed us to a contract and said, all right, go off and write the rest of it. And we took about 4 or 5 months, wrote it, did a lot of interviews, did a lot of research, put it all together. And then when it came out, we were like, this thing sells. We probably know like 500 or 600 people between us. Maybe we'll sell that many. And it sold like first 3 days. It was really insane, and so it just blew up from there. It was really crazy, but just a lot of fun and really, really cool experience.
That's awesome. Just where you thought you'd be, right? When you start the podcast, you're like, someday I'm going to be an author about Duke, right?
Yeah, no, I just knew I had a lot of built-up, pent-up anger about it, and Reed could help me kind of form it into actual paragraphs, and out came the book. So yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy.
That's awesome, and it speaks so much for so many of us as Tar Heel fans. Is there one thing you hear, and I don't know how much feedback you've gotten over I don't know if it's years or whatever, but is there one that people kind of cling to the most, or one you hear about, get the most feedback about?
Yeah, it's usually somewhere around like the most hated list, and most people, it always depends on their age. So like you get an older crowd will say, no, Art Heyman was the guy, I mean, like the really old folks, and then my generation is Christian Laettner. Other folks are like J.J. Redick is the most awful human that's ever walked the planet. I mean, even recently you've got Grayson Allen just like rocketing up the list of hated Dookies. So that's probably the thing we hear most about. It's people kind of wanting to debate that and thinking about who it is that they hate the most. But that's mostly what it is. But we hear a lot of different stuff too.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. One of my questions was, is there a lot of material for kind of a redoing the book, adding in some chapters, or obviously to that list? Obviously we know Grayson Allen could be added in there. Has there been any conversation or thought?
Yeah, we actually have talked about it, like a Duke still sucks or something like that. So we've written a couple things. We've got a couple little chapters written on. We got a couple different ideas. Reed right now is off writing a different book, not on college basketball, but a different subject. He's really tied up right now, but it's something that we kind of come back to every once in a while about writing it. But I'll give you a little secret, Dan. Book publishing is not a very lucrative business. So it's a labor of love. It's like, okay, do I really want to put in like 4 or 5 months of writing every night? And I don't know, but I mean, it is something we throw around, and who knows, one day we might actually, get off our cans here and make it happen. You never know.
It must be something about this podcasting thing, because, like you said too, it's a lot of work to do a podcast, and there's not a lot of monetary or benefits to it, other than you get to hear from all these other Tar Heel fans and just kind of get out that passion and in the case of the book, the hatred for Duke kind of off your chest and out there for other people to enjoy as well.
Yeah, very much the case. So it's like I said, it's a labor of love, or maybe a labor of hate in my case. I don't know what but yeah.
And then, of course, leading into the next subject, the 30 for 30 about I Hate Christian Laettner. I'm guessing the book had a pretty big part in leading to your appearance on that.
Yeah, it did. So the way that came about was, I mean, after the book came out, we would get notes from time to time from people maybe want to have us on the radio or a podcast or anything, just to talk about the Duke UNC rivalry, Duke hatred. So we got an email one day, and it was from a this guy, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing some research around a documentary about Christian Laettner." And that was all I said. I'd like to talk to you. Okay, that could very well possibly be some Duke fans that want to get me in a room and crack my skull open or something. So I was a little unsure, because it was all he said, and so I was like, oh, okay, well, we emailed him back, and Reed and I were like, "You want to talk to this guy?" I'm like, "Well, I will." And so I emailed him back. I was like, "Yeah, let's chat. What is this for again? What are you doing?" So he said, emailed me back, "Well, let's talk over the phone." I'm like, God, this is not good. This is some shady, insane Duke fan. So I called him up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a producer for this film company, and this is going to be an ESPN 30 for 30. But you can't tell anyone that it's coming out." God, that's really cool, and I will have a really hard time holding that in. So they came to my house. Set up this video shot, so it's almost the same angle that the film was shot in, but recorded for like probably an hour, maybe 45 minutes in my house, and then left, and then didn't really know if I was going to be in it. I was just like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And then as time went on, I kept hearing from them like, "Yeah, you're going to be in it. You're going to be in it a whole lot." And I was like, "Oh my God!" So it was a really crazy experience. I went up to New York for the premiere. I met Christian Laettner, met Brant Hill, like a bunch of other people. I met his family. I met Christian's family. I have never, Dan, been stared down that hard by a 10-year-old before. But his son did not like me. He was like, "You say mean things about my daddy," and it was really weird. But it's been a really cool experience, and just wild. I'll be sitting in a restaurant or something, and my face is on television. I get texts from friends all the time. They're like, "I'm walking through the Charlotte airport today, and I see you ranting and raving on television." So it's a bizarre experience, but I mean, obviously, really cool and a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And is there anything else that's come from that appearance, or do you get people that don't know you even that kind of, "Oh, you look familiar. Where is it from?" and then connect the dots?
Every once in a while, yeah. Mostly it's people that know me or have known me over the years and see it and go, oh my God, I know that guy. But occasionally, I mean, I've been out before, and people will come up to me and say, I swear I've seen you somewhere before, and I get that a lot. But and then get a lot of people that are friends of friends will come up to me and say, hey, you know so and so, and I saw you on that show, and man, you were crazy. And I'm like, I'm not really that crazy in real life, So, but it's been a really crazy experience, and the fact that it comes on all the time. I will bet that it's going to be on 15 times this week leading up to the Duke game. It's on Netflix and things, so it's not like it has this unending shelf life that seems to be going and going. And to their credit, I thought they did an amazing job with this film. I thought it was great, despite my appearance in it. I thought it was really good and really well put together. And Rory is just like a great filmmaker. But I meant to say, to connect back to the book, the reason that they found this was Rory Karp, who's the producer for the film, lives in Charlotte. And so he had just heard about the book and looked us up and tracked us down that way. But yeah, so it definitely helped in terms of getting us connected. And what he really needed was a foil. He needed a movie about a villain. He needed a villain. So I was kind of like that somehow, some way. I played the villain to the villain, I guess.
Well, and like you said, it was a really well done, and that's why they can show it so often, because it's so good, and hopefully those fans coming up to you are mostly UNC fans and not Duke fans that recognize you from the show.
Yeah. I do get that occasionally. And normally the conversation goes like this, like, I really didn't agree with anything you said, but you were kind of funny. So I'm like, okay, I guess that'll do. And as long as I'm not punching me in the face, then that's okay.
Yeah, that's better than anger. So
yeah.
And you mentioned before we get too far away from the book that you have signings coming up this weekend around the Duke game. Let's get to those before we get too far off that topic.
Yeah. Do my plugs here before we start getting into the game. So I'm actually doing a couple things on Saturday. One, I've gotten hooked up with these guys that are putting on a 5K race Saturday morning called the Blue Blood Rivalry Run, and it's a UNC Duke competitive run. The coolest thing, Dan, is you can dribble a basketball throughout the whole 5K. So it's going to be pretty cool. Raising money for Special Olympics. So, definitely sign up and come run if anyone's watching this. And then after that, they have like a post-race beer garden party, and I'm going to be in there in a tent set up by Flyleaf Books and signing books there. And then later in the afternoon, 3 to 5 on Saturday. So that race is 9:30 Saturday morning, and then 3 to 5 on Saturday, I'll be at student stores on campus, signing books there as well. And then I'm begging people to please give me a ticket to the game somewhere, somehow, while I'm on campus. But so that's the plan. So if you're listening to the podcast, watching, come on out, and if you don't have a book already, or get one for a friend, and I'll be there to say hello, take a picture.
Yeah, and for people watching or listening, I will get the website to sign up for the run and get the details, make sure it's in the description of all this, so that they, if in case they missed it or ever don't want to rewind the podcast, that it's look below, and all that information can be in the description there. And you mentioned going to the Duke game. I actually live in Tennessee. I've been to Chapel Hill. I've made the pilgrimage, and I've been there, but it's mostly non-conference early season games. I've seen them on the road in various places, but have you been to a Duke Carolina game yet?
Yes, so I have. I obviously went a lot when I was in school, and then right after that, the last one I went to was in the Dean Dome when it was 3 or 4 years ago when Leslie McDonald. It was the postponed snow game.
Yes.
So it was So it was like the game. I was going to go to the snow game, and then I got snowed out, and then I won the makeup game later. So Carolina won. It was an unbelievable experience. I had great seats. I just remember Leslie McDonald saved their bacon in that game at the beginning, and so that's the last one I've been to. And then I've been to a couple more over the years. I've been to one UNC Duke game in Cameron. Sat about 5 rows behind the Duke bench, and we lost. And I thought I was going to get my butt kicked. It was bad because I was being a little bit obnoxious at the beginning of the game. But so I hear around town that tickets for this game are ridiculous, $400 to get in on if you look at stuff up. So I think it's fruitless effort, but I always try to put it out there.
That's right. It can hurt. The worst they can say is no. So Yeah. Anything else on any of those topics that I've kind of missed or we've glazed over that you want to hit on before we jump into some games here?
No, let's talk games, man. Let's talk games.
All right. Since the last time I have podcast, we've had 3 games: the Louisville game, Pittsburgh game, and the Virginia game. Obviously, most people or everybody listening to this will know that we went 2-1 of those games. We've clinched at least a share of the ACC regular season championship. We've clinched the 1 seed in the ACC tournament already, and obviously a big game coming up. But let's quickly go over it. Louisville or Louisville. What's the kind of takeaway that you'd throw out there in a couple sentences?
Yeah, I was pumped. I was a little nervous coming into that game, just because they're so athletic, long. I thought we matched up poorly against them, and I was ecstatic that we came out of that game with such a great win. So I was very nervous going into it, but no, I thought we played great. I mean, Justin Jackson was unbelievable. Just continued playing well, and I was really, really stoked about that. The other thing I think that happened that day was, I think, like right before our game started. I don't know if you're like this, but I think probably a lot of your listeners are. I cannot celebrate a Duke loss until after our next game. So I feel like I'm going to jinx something if I'm like, yeah, because that was such an exciting ending. They hit the big shot and the buzzer, and I literally jumped out of my chair. But then I was like, okay, calm down. We got to win tonight, and then I can be excited about it. So yeah,
and it was literally right before us because I believe it was the same channel. So anybody even if they didn't know Duke was playing, they're on that channel getting ready for our game. And then they hit, because I think I even turned it on and it was pretty much the end of the game. I saw Duke's possession where they came up empty. Syracuse went down, hit the buzzer beater, and it's kind of same thing. You jump up like woo, and then it's like, okay, prepare for our game, get ready. But I think it was the Louisville game was the biggest win of those 3 because Duke had lost. We got a 2, when we won after our game, had a 2-game lead in the conference, and we knew we had Pittsburgh coming up, so we had a good shot at least, like we have now, gotten a share of the ACC regular season championship. But the other thing, kind of talked about being scary of Louisville is that nationally, I don't think they get as much publicity as, even Kentucky, who's ranked lower, and, obviously Kansas and Gonzaga, where they're undefeated. Nobody's talking about them, but they're still a top 10 team. I mean, it was number 4 against number 5 when we played. The way we came out and got that win, I think, made it a very important game. Pittsburgh, we went on the road at noon, which we've struggled with this year. Senior day for them. I did not actually get to see this game. I was out of town, and then it was like on ACC, I don't know, network or whatever, was not on ESPN3 or anything. So I had nothing to watch this game on. So what do you got to say about Pittsburgh here?
Yeah, I'm like you. I was nervous. I hate to say it, the same thing I said about Louisville, but I was nervous going into that game. Noon games, which hadn't played really well, going on the road. But I really had kind of grouped the Virginia and the Pitt game together. I was like, okay, 2 road games that are going to be tough. If we can get through these and split, which we'll talk about the Virginia game in a minute. But I was going to be happy. But I thought that game was a little weird. And I thought we played well, but I didn't think Pittsburgh played that well. And they've struggled a little bit this year. So, but I was nervous going into it just because Dome and then noon games on the road. I was a little unsure about it, but again, I watched it and I was able to see that one. Justin Jackson again, just awesome in that game, and I was very ecstatic to get out of there with a win. I'm like, okay, from this little tough stretch now we just have to. If we lose to Virginia, I wasn't going to be so upset. We just have to, get the Duke game done. So, I thought we looked really good, all things considered, in that game.
And then, of course, with Pittsburgh sandwiched in there amongst the Louisville, the Virginia, both the Virginia games, the Duke game coming up, we go from, as you say, looking well in the Pittsburgh game to the Virginia game. And going in, we know it's going to be an ugly game. We won 65-41 or something the first time. I mean, wasn't even pretty when we blew them out. So now it's at their place. We know it's not going to be pretty, and it definitely lived up to that billing.
First of all, I just want to say I hate the way that Virginia plays basketball. It's horrible. I mean, it's like watching paint dry. I mean, that's the cliche, but I really cannot stand to watch them play. I dread the games against them. It's like playing Georgia Tech in football. Like, I totally dread playing that game because it's not even going to be something that's enjoyable to watch. So I knew that they were going to be jacked up after we had, beat the brakes off of them in Chapel Hill. I was like, they're going to be so jacked up. They need this game to kind of regain control of things. And I mean, Dan, when a dude with a man bun is like banking shots in off of one leg, it ain't your day. So I was like, this is insane. And I I thought we played terrible. We looked tired, sluggish. And so I was like, you know what? Before the season even started, and I looked at the schedule, I was like, you know what? That's a trouble spot right there. Pittsburgh, back-to-back road games, noon, and then 7 Saturday, Monday. We're not going to win both of those games. So I kind of removed myself. I was like, you know what? That'll be fine. And maybe we'll be all pissed off coming into the Duke game, which is kind of what I want.
Right. And that's the thing, too, going into the Duke game is we never want to see them coming off of a loss.
No.
And it doesn't hurt us, especially I think it helps that we had clinched at least a share of the title before this game. And yeah, like you said, back-to-back Saturday, Monday games. And I don't know, people are even saying, well, Roy shouldn't have traveled back home to Chapel Hill in between those games, should have went right down there and, you know, all of this stuff. But yeah, that's not easy to do when you're playing a Virginia team in the first place. But yeah, like you said, hopefully it focuses us for the Duke game. Obviously the ACC tournament after that and the NCAA tournament coming. Hopefully this is our last loss, the Virginia game. We lose it, we get focused, and we got to win. Let's see, what is it?
11 in a row.
10 in a row, right?
11 with the Duke game.
Is it 10 in a row? Okay.
No, you're right. 10. So it's games in the ACC tournament,
and then
6 in the thing. You're right. I can't do math. But well, you know, last year we lost the Virginia game and then won 10 in a row. So there you go. Maybe we just need to do that.
Right.
They
know how to do that. So
yes.
So let's look at the Duke game again. Obviously, that's where we're here. And I even stole a little bit of your book title for this episode. This is the Duke Sucks episode with Andy
Awesome.
Bagwell. So what are your expectations going into this game? Us coming off a loss, Duke is somewhat beat up, but coming off a win.
My first impression of this game, my first thought is, I think we're going to beat the snot out of them. But then I tried to back that off because seems like it's been the pattern over the last several years. It's like we go in, we lose the first game, no matter if it's here or in Cameron, and then we come back and we beat them at home or in that second game. I don't know what that is or why we have kind of fallen into that pattern, but it's weird. So I mean, I think we've got a lot of things in our favor. I think coming off a loss is in our favor. I think senior night is in our favor. Roy Williams puts huge emphasis on that. I think having lost to them before gives us an extra motivation. I think having that game as a win would clinch an outright ACC championship is a huge motivator. So I think a lot of things kind of are working in our favor. And like you said, they're a little bit banged up as they have been all year. But all of that being said, Dan, it still makes me nervous. I'm glad that I have a really busy day on Saturday because I hate the late starts. I have to distract myself all day. I'll be nervous. I'll be thinking about it. I'll be wringing my hands. I think the key part of the game to me is, and I thought it's something we didn't do in the game before, was I think we have to see Joel Berry driving to the basket. If he shoots more than 4 or 5 3-pointers, I think it's too much. They don't have anybody that can guard him, especially if you bring him off the screen or something, driving to the basket. I just think that is the absolute key to the game. A la Ty Lawson or some things in the past where we've seen those types of Duke teams and South Carolina teams. But to me, that is the key to this game. And I'd love to see him be more aggressive and not kind of settling for those 3-pointers. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think what's kind of like the key to you? Who's the player that you think is going to make the difference this time?
Yeah, and I'm exactly like you. Like when we lost to Duke, right after that game, we're going to kill them by 20 at home. But it's the jinx as well. You can't go in saying you're going to win by 20 or you're going to jinx them and we're going to end up losing when we should win. So you got to back off of that. And there's so many factors around this. We're undefeated in the Dean Smith Center this year so far. We're I think 15-0, so this would finish that. Knock on some wood.
Yeah.
Game day is in the house, and I think our record hasn't even been good on game day games. Although we did win, the one previously against the Cardinals. Like you said, it's senior night, and how much Roy puts on that, and really challenges the underclassmen, which hopefully will help Joel and Justin hey, we got to win it for them and all that. There's so much, and yeah, I mean, you've hit on most of it. The injuries they've had, and they were the preseason #1. We can clinch the have the ACC title by ourselves here if we win this one. I agree that Joel has to be better than the first game. People were saying that going into Duke, like Joel is kind of the X factor. If Joel Berry plays well, North Carolina wins. If Duke can contain him, keep him away from the basket, Duke has a shot, or will win. So I think that he is the big factor, but more of it, I think, is just that we come out and play, our game, and we're ready. If we can put aside all those other things and get the energy and the passion that usually Tar Heel teams do on a senior night, then we're going to win, and we should win even comfortably, I would say, but without jinxing them, of course.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, I think the Joel Berry axiom is pretty true. I mean, I think if he plays well, we almost always win. I think with the way that Justin Jackson had been playing up until the Virginia game, I think he could probably cover up some of that. But the other thing I will mention is if somehow, some way, Isaiah Hicks has a big game or can kind of not foul and kind of get out of that funk that he's in, then I think not just against a Duke game, but going forward in the postseason, I think that's the guy that if he can kind of get going again somehow, some way, I think it's really, really hard to beat us. So I'm hopeful for that, but I don't think we have to have that to get the win. But
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, we have to remember we didn't have him in the first game. He was missing from, but he hasn't necessarily shown up the last couple of games either. So, yeah, and the other thing we've kind of struggled with in the Virginia game, and I think even there was one other game I don't remember, but our rebounding hasn't. All year that's been the narrative, is our offensive rebounding, how much we've dominated on the boards. If we get back to that, like you said, not even just the Duke game, but going forward into tournament play, is kind of our X factor. It's an offense on its own, as a lot of the talking heads on ESPN and whatnot will say.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's been huge. I think people are obviously scouting that big time on us, and they're putting emphasis on it coming into the game against us. So I think definitely, especially in the ACC, when you're seeing people multiple times, people are starting to figure out, okay, this is how we've got to counteract that. And just like it always happens, I think once we get into the NCAA tournament, it's gonna help to see guys that we don't see very often. I think some of that will start to return, but. Yeah, I was trying to think. The other thing that happens a lot of times in Duke games, and I'm be interested to see what happens. I'll get your prediction on this. It always seems like in one of the games, some unknown dude steps up and does something. Like I was mentioning, Leslie McDonald in that game I went to. No one really thought a lot about him, and he comes in that first half in that game that I went to, and just kept us in the game. So I'm kind of looking for that. I was like, who is it going to be that's going to do something or have some sort of game that's going to really give us a little bit of an edge? So who do you think that's going to be? And then I'll come up with something too. Who could it be?
Well, I think probably the good thing is I think we have more possibilities for that than they do. The kind of the surprise player. I think Nate Britt could come in and just kind of lock somebody down defensively, hit a three, or hit a couple of shots and push us over the edge. Obviously Kenny Williams is out, but he's another one that could have given us those threes. Even Stillman White, I'm guessing he'll start because he's a senior, senior night, comes in and just, even if he doesn't add to the stat sheet, just, again, shuts somebody down or makes just a shot that we wouldn't have had otherwise, just, buys time for Joel to rest a little bit, or if he's in foul trouble or something like that. Tony Bradley could come in and he could put up a double-double, So I think we have more possibilities. Obviously, Harry Giles hasn't put up the numbers that they expected for him, so there is a surprise. He could come in and, he's from the area and all that, put in a monster game or something and surprise us. But I don't know if I'm going to. If I had to predict somebody, I think I would probably be like Nate Britt. Would just come in, with a couple of steals, couple of shots, lock somebody down defensively, and help us out on his senior night.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good bet. I would say it's either going to be Nate Britt. I'll throw a little bit out there for Seventh Woods. I just think I kept feeling like, there's going to be a moment or two. He's going to dunk on somebody, or he's going to have some, he had that spinning move, I guess was NC State. So I'll throw that out there as well. But I probably would say Nate Britt would be my first guess. So I'm hoping he does something, puts us over the top.
That would be a good way to go out as far as playing in the Dean Dome. But I've taken enough of your time. I know it's kind of the middle of the day when we're recording this. Appreciate you coming on again. Make sure you send over all that information, and so I can put it in the description. The Blue Blood run in the morning, the book signings throughout the day. I don't think I'll have to link up to the start time for the Duke North Carolina game, but
Nope.
but give me that other stuff. And then also, do you want to throw out your Twitter? I don't know how much you tweet during the games or about it, but feel free to.
Sure, it depends on my state of mind. But NC Bags on Twitter, so like NC, like North Carolina Bags, and I'll send that to you as well, and you can certainly tweet it out. So that's usually where people find me, and like during the 30 for 30 airing, that's where all the Duke fans channeled their vitriol, was right at the Twitter machine. So yeah, no, and Dan, thank you so much for having me on. Man, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy your podcast, and I always like doing this and talking with other folks that are big time Heels fans. So thanks, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, that's what we do it for. Like we said, there's not a whole lot of payback for it, so it's just a labor of love, as you said before, and just getting to talk Tar Heel basketball with other Tar Heel fans. So appreciate having you on. Until I talk to everybody on the podcast on Monday leading into the ACC tournament, go Heels.